Joe Biden and many others yesterday were responding to Carter's death. Carter, of course, has not been in good health for some time now. Joe Biden talked about Carter. He said, with his compassion and moral clarity, he worked to eradicate disease, forge peace, advance civil rights, human rights, promote free and fair elections, house the homeless, and always advocate for the least among us. He said he saved, lifted, and changed the lives of people all across the globe. Of course, Biden couldn't resist. Like always, he had to get a dig in on Donald Trump as he's praising Jimmy Carter. Now, I don't know what Donald Trump has to do with Jimmy Carter, but I noticed this in several different Democrats' assessments of Jimmy Carter's life. Yesterday, when praising Jimmy Carter, Joe Biden, lobbed one at Donald Trump in cut number 7 when asked about what Carter or what Trump could learn from Carter.
Thank you. President Trump to take from President Carter.
Decency. 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 Everybody deserves a shot. Everybody. Can you imagine Jimmy Carter walking by someone and he needs something and just keep walking? Can you imagine Jimmy Carter referring to someone by the way they look or the way they talk? I can't. I can't.
As if Donald Trump would do those things. I have some words for you, Joe Biden. What about honesty? Honesty. Honesty. Of course, Joe Biden concerned, as are Democrats, about what his legacy is going to look like as he leaves office in just a few weeks. In these final weeks of the Biden-Harris administration, you're going to hear a lot of talk about Biden's legacy, what it is, how people will remember him, short-term and long-term. Former Hillary Clinton advisor and CNN contributor Karen Finney argued yesterday that President Biden's record will stand the test of time, she said. Stand the test of time. Finney conceded that some critics, such as her fellow panelist yesterday, Scott Jennings, have called out the administration as rightfully so, she said, over Biden not disclosing his true cognitive ability. We have recently learned that even going into the Oval Office 4 years ago, there was questions about Joe Biden's cognitive abilities even then. As you can imagine, Scott Jennings pushed back a bit in what became let's just call it a spirited discussion on CNN's State of the Union. Jennings issued a sharp rebuke of President Biden's legacy, saying that he feels like that Joe Biden will be leaving office in disgrace. This is cut number 1.
Companies and small businesses were falling off a cliff, and he helped to get vaccines, get us out of our homes, get us back to work, and invested in this country. I think one of the things that you'll see him doing with the time that he has left is more around investments in the CHIPS and Science Act. I think that's actually going to be transformational in communities around the country. I think Donald Trump will take credit for it, but Joe Biden's record with regard to the things that he's accomplished, I think will stand the test of time. Now, what my dear friend Scott and others will talk about, and quite frankly, I'm going to say this, rightfully so, it was very disturbing to learn late in the year about just how poor his health has become. And like many, I did not realize that it had gotten to that point. That being said, I think he showed up for the job. He got the work done. I think some of the accomplishments also in the Middle East and foreign policy will also stand the test of time.
You think the Middle East is in better shape today than when he took office?
Well, I think he got our hostages home. I think that's a big deal. I think it's important.
I'm sorry, which hostages?
He's gotten a number of people home. He was able.
There's still 100 people over there.
Well, there were more than that.
Including some Americans. Look, I think he's gonna leave office in disgrace. The Hunter Biden pardon was disgraceful. He's going to be remembered largely for inflation and for the disastrous Afghanistan pullout. And I think as we continue to, we're just getting the first draft of this now, but as we continue to learn about the massive cover-up that went on, not about his health, but about his mental acuity, to cover that up, the efforts that were undertaken by the White House staff, by his family, not in the last couple of months, but for all 4 years, I think it's going to be a really ugly chapter. It's a diminished presidency because of it. And I think we still don't know the full extent of what they did to try to hide what they've been doing over in the West Wing.
So what is Joe Biden's legacy? You agree with Scott Jennings? He's going to leave in disgrace? Or do you agree with Miss Finney? If you're watching us on the Salem News Channel, and I hope you are, you saw when Scott Jennings said, which hostages? She was stunned. She didn't quite know how to get out of that one. She didn't know how to respond. It was a great response because that is a valid question. She's talking about, well, Joe Biden got our hostages back. Well, there's still hostages there. Over 100. And some of those are Americans as well. We're talking about Jimmy Carter's legacy. Many of you are texting in. Your comments are welcome on the MyPillow text line, 800-655-6453, 800-655-MIKE. Texter says, good morning, Joey. Yeah, bottom line, Jimmy Carter was actually a very good man. Even though he was terrible as president, he meant well. Now, on the other hand, they write, Biden is a terrible human being, both in and out of his presidency. It will be interesting to see the legacy of these two men, because there were a lot of similarities. Yes, Jimmy Carter was a nice person. He had a strong faith, a Christian man. He seemed to really care about people, care about others and himself. Joe Biden, on the other hand, I believe is all he cares about is himself and his family, his son. I think Joe Biden probably is one of the most crooked presidents we've had. And we're eventually going to find out just how crooked he is, because I think eventually we're going to find out about the millions and millions of dollars that his son received from these foreign entities. Texter says, Joey, Biden's legacy will boil down to corruption, lies, failure, and destroying everything he stuck his nose in and being more divisive than Barack Obama. Another texter says, Joey, we need to impeach Joe Biden as soon as possible. I think that cow's probably out of the barn. I don't know that we're going to have time to impeach Joe Biden. I think we let the old man go home and retire. 800-655-MIKE, 1-800-655-6453. Your phone calls are welcome. We'll put you in queue and take as many as we possibly can. Comments on the MyPillow text line. Emails joey@joeyhudson.com. I'm Joey Hudson, in for Mike today.